Joining me again is Nabafo Sharon, who is the legal manager at Wilken Property Services. Today we are talking how to manage rent increases or decreases, how to manage communications, but most importantly, how do we deal with us errant tenants? Welcome to the show again. Yeah, this is the only time I can bonga a council and they don't sue me. Welcome once again. Talk to us first about rent revision. Me, the tenant, I can refuse. I say it's unfair. Why are you increasing? Why are you doubling the cost? I know of tenants who even fought with their landlords as we were getting into COVID. You're like, boss, the entire world has stopped. Are you the only landlord who is not seeing what's happening? So as Wilken, how do you deal with such things?
Okay, thank you, Brian. I'm glad to be part of this show for the second time. So fast forward to the question you asked, rent revision. So rent revision can either be an increment or a decrease. Yes. It's possible, A decrease can happen. You get? And even, it's just that most of us know increment. But even a decrease is possible.
Yeah.
So the way we deal with rent revision as Wilken, if I can speak to the landlords, we have quite a unique practice that every year we sit down as Wilken and peruse through each of our estates, have a detailed discussion on the rates of our estates every year. So it's something that it's an annual practice that we actually do. So after we do that, that means we look at, let's say for example, Mr. Mlondo, you're our client. So we look at Mr. Mlondo's property in Nigeria. And so, okay, there are 800. And then you look at, okay, the best, we can maybe push this property to 900 or to another figure, depending. We can maybe increase it by 50 or 100, depending on it. But because we know, we look at the market value. The market value, the knowledge about the market value of the place, we already have that knowledge because we are in business. So that's a thing that at least gives us an edge ahead of the landlord. You get. So what we do after that, we'll write to the landlord, because there are landlords who actually don't know that they should increase rent. Yes, they are there. They have no clue. People have been on those premises 10 years, same rate. Nigeria has improved, Chira has grown. He does not have a clue he has to increase. But look here, as your property managers, we write to you and say, look here, your property needs to be revised. Your rent needs to actually...
according to the market rate.
Yes, and other things that may actually fall into play. Something that the landlord cannot do. Usually landlords, if I have my property, for example, in Nigeria, we are in school fees week, Brian.
Yeah.
School fees is not coming through.
Yeah.
You detect. So you realize that someone may just decide to increase the rent without knowing the market value. But for them, they are only attached to their particular property. But when you bring it to a property manager, we shall make sure that, one, your property is revised according to the current market value. Number two, we shall do it in accordance to the law. Because the law is very clear. Give people 60 days notice when you're increasing or revising their rate. Then even to the tenants, we give a minimum of a year. At least be in that house 1 year before your rent is actually revised. But also I don't want to say that every year we keep
increasing.
Yes, no, it's not the case. We are just saying the minimum we can give you is a year. Then if the next, because like I told you, we revise these rates on an annual basis. If we reach the property of Mr. Mlondo, I'm like, but no, there's really nothing that warrants us to increase. We will leave. You get. So rent revision, one, as Wilken as a whole, we make sure we create a balance between the landlord.
What if, okay, you come to me and you are increasing, say, by 200,000, and I tell you guys, the way my income is organized, I can only manage 50,000 shillings. Is that something that is agreeable? Can you allow? What are some of the ways you deal with such scenarios?
Usually we write, because our communications, because we understand that rent revision is a very critical aspect. So we write to the tenants actually in writing.
Right.
Yes. We inform them about the revision. Once someone has an issue, they're invited to office. Usually some of them write back or they're invited to office. So when they come to office, that's when we sit on table and see how we can come on a middle ground. But we must note that we sit on table and bring in the landlord a little bit, but as the property managers, we are the face of it in all this. So we sit down, negotiate on table, and see how we can come to something more amicable for both of us, yes.
And speaking of communication, say we come and we talk. Sometimes the landlord can say something, my friend, umuntu neyegana, because you didn't send this, you have never sent this, and vice versa. How does Wilken deal with communication?
Okay. Most of our communications are written to the tenants. We try as much as possible to emphasize written communications because those are kept, they are recorded. Some of the communications, we are also aware of the technology advancement. We are aware of WhatsApp, we are aware of Zoom, all those we are really aware of, and we try as much as possible to embrace them, but maintaining the written communications.
I have seen on several occasions, you know, people shifting at night. By the way, I still don't understand why we shift at night. I don't see the difference. Anytime. But of course, traditionally, we think that people will see your things as you leave the premises. But some people shift at night because they are running away from the landlord. So as far as termination is concerned, how does Wilken deal with this? Because yes, you can write to me, and I still refuse to even leave the house. What are some of the scenarios that you've experienced in the work that you do?
In terminations. Terminations are very clear. A termination can actually be by the tenant. You can decide to terminate the tenancy. You find that maybe I have got a work shift. I've been shifted from Kampala and I cannot sustain that house. Then you also find that maybe a tenant realizes that the financial abilities have a bit gone down. So in that instance, the tenant can write to you and say, look here, I might not be able to contain that house. So terminations are two-way. So even as the landlords or the property managers, we can still terminate. When you fail to meet your rent obligations, we will still terminate. When you have maybe, let's leave alone rent, there are other obligations. You've become a nuisance to the estate. Hey, you're an yes. Let's say, for example, an estate, because usually when you come on board, we are very clear the purpose for which we are renting you for. We are clear this is residential. You get? So for you, you arrive on the estate with your goats, with your cattle. With your sheep.
Yes.
You get? You come in my apartment of Nigeria.
You turn it into a farm.
Thank you. There is Brian who has his good. There is another Sharon who has their ML there.
You know?
And you get? There's a person who has I tell you, you know how these animals behave.
Yes.
You get? Clearly, you're affecting the privacy of other people. We will properly.
But some people keep hosting parties
in
at
the
their
night.
home.
Party after party. Forgetting that it is a residential thing. Some of you fight. There are also fights. Those are some of the examples, which could actually be very violent.
Like couples keep fighting. Domestic violence.
So that's also one way we can actually terminate. There's also change of use. Like let's say, for example, the premises are going to be changed to something else. Someone is maybe changing their apartments to a school. We will give you enough notice to have that you leave. So we'll give you the 30 days notice as the law provides, and we'll even give you the reason as to why we are terminating. So when this arises, we will write to you. So many circumstances arise so that we can terminate your tenancy, or tenants can actually terminate.
That's very interesting, man. I like that. There's mutual respect, especially in this relationship. Talk to us about rent payments. You have given me the deadline, 5th September. If you don't pay, you know, you should not pass this day. How do you manage some of those again?
For rent payments, we try as much as possible, right from inception. We clearly state it to you. We emphasize it actually that our rent is paid every 5th day of the new month. So literally September, you should have already paid it.
That's the Wilken way.
Yes.
The Wilken
Every
way
5th
is
day.
every 5th of every month.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So we are very clear, every 5th day of every month, they must be paid on certain bank accounts. You get? So from there, we'll give you a receipt. So we will make sure that we emphasize this right at inception. You get? But I must also say there are isolated cases. You get? Where someone says, communicates and says, look here, my rent will delay a little bit. You get? In as much as we are trying to push this, even the humane bit is there.
Yeah.
Someone has been paying consistently well and just calls up and says, look here, can I pay on 10th? You get? And as explained themselves, they will come here and we'll let them pay on that, on exception. But we are not saying every time you say, I will pay on 20th, I will pay on... But so we are also able to understand that everything has dynamics. So when you come and explain to us and give us a sound reason, we'll be able to adjust for you so you can pay on a later date except 5th.
Right.
Yes.
Some of us tenants, we are not easy, Sharon. We are not easy. So how does Wilken deal with some of these errant tenants? And have there been times when, you know, we had to involve
that's a very interesting one, and I'm sure everyone wants to hear how we deal with it.
Have you had to take people to court? Hey, when they are becoming unbecoming, like someone puts it.
Okay. What I must first of all emphasize, like I've told you earlier on, Brian, is we have the ability to detect inability to pay.
Yeah.
That's one. And we study each and every tenant. I can be able to tell Brian can box properly. Properly.
Eventually they'll bring the money.
Then I am also able to detect that Sharon is a cry baby. Every time you go and ask for rent, before it's paid, they'll first tell you all the problems that happen.
Yeah.
You get. So you're able to detect, we are able to, and so depending on the tenant and depending on their character, we are able to find a suitable rent. But like we
kind
said,
of profile
yes.
all of us and and know
something
how
which
to deal with that.
property managers don't have the time to get. So instead of struggling with listening to problems, listening to phone calls, I think the best is to give it to Wilken. So what happens is we will write, like you said, errant tuba tukukoye. Now we've tried all the initial stages and it has refused. We don't have so many of them, so we have extremely isolated cases to that effect. And if I must say, most of them, some of them, we had it, I think, mostly in the periods of COVID, because people were down. It was very clear-cut. People were down, people didn't have money. So sometimes, then there were also restrictions on movements. So people a bit accumulated some of the areas. But now, on those isolated cases, we will give you notice.
Yeah.
The law is clear, give them 30 days notice. We have, like the law is very clear, you have the power to enter and possess your property as the landlord.
As the landlord?
Yes. But you must be in the presence of an LC, chairperson, and the police. Yes. Or you can also decide to go to court. A court of competent, that's what we say, court of competent jurisdiction.
That's what the law says.
It's very clear, yes.
Yes.
Then you can still go to court and claim under the small claims. There's a whole procedure to that. But you have that option. You can have the else. But in all this, even when we terminate you or evict you, the landlord does not lose their right to be paid. Okay. So don't think that they will throw you out of the house or you will come. Let's throw in quite a bit.
That's
word,
like tough.
Tough.
Yeah.
Let's get a better word. When you move out,
when you've been requested
to move out of the house, even then, the landlord will not lose their right to earn that rent. Because remember, you've occupied and enjoyed that particular service. But it's what I can say, how we do it's a case-by-case basis. Eh? Yeah. How you handle Brian is different. You might find that you handle Brian, tell Brian, my friend, leave this house. You can't handle. And Brian accepts. You create a very good payment plan, affordable, workable, so that Brian leaves and also is able to clear. Then there is a person who can't pay Brian.
Yeah.
Can't pay. They are down.
Chiganye.
Someone has probably got an accident.
Yeah.
You get. They are literally on there.
Yeah.
You get. They've got. So it's a. That's what I'm saying. It's a case by case scenario. But we do this in alignment with the law.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sharon, once again. Guys, you need to share with us some of the most extreme things landlords have done to get tenants out of their premises, including, what do they call this, Kathy? What do they call it in where they hold you by the belt here? Jake, including Jake. Yeah, talk to us. Use the hashtag Wilken Property Services. But I encourage you landlords, listen very careful. Don't be stressed by some of these things, yeah? Honestly, my advice is you get a professional who has done this for the last 15 years with a very, very knowledgeable team behind the legal team at Wilken Property Services will help you manage some of these things, right? We shouldn't see you at all tenant tenant can end up beating you. Pressurizing, they take you to hospital, you know, and it is really not necessary. So talk to Wilken Property Services. Our offices on Entebbe Road in Najana Nkumbi, opposite the FDC headquarters. You will see the nice magenta building, or you can go to Ntinda at the traffic lights there before you join the road going to Unel. You'll see our signpost there, and let's make sure we talk. Alternatively, you can send us an email, info@wilkenpropertyservices.com, or just call us. And check out also some of our social media platforms and DM us, and let's start talking.